welcome back to this week's episode of Coffee Chats with Kat. I'm so excited that Dawn is here. Gosh, I feel like we're like having a coaching call right now or something.
Right?
It's so fun. Dawn's one of my coaching students, but we've just become such good friends over a year. Gosh,
Yeah, it has been. Crazy.
It's so long, and I'm really excited that she is joining me today to talk about tech in the creative space. I am not tech savvy. Her business is literally the tech savvy creative. She is the tech savvy one. I am not. And so I'm just really pumped to be able to talk a little bit more about just some tech things that maybe a little nerdy, but in like a good way and in a helpful way for our business. But okay, before we dive into all the tech things, Dawn, why don't you introduce yourself and tell them a little bit more about Tech Savvy Creative?
Sure. Okay. Hi, guys. I'm Dawn, and I am the owner of Tech Savvy Creative, like Kat said. I have a bit of a different background than most creatives. I actually started in the technical field. My IT career started at Apple, and I did technical support, and I did training there, and that was like, again, 10 years ago. So it was like iPhone 4 days that I was there. It was back in the day. But there, I just really kind of fell in love with that technology could change people's lives. And I pursued a business degree in information systems and then moved on to be a software engineer here in San Antonio. And that's where I'm at now. I'm still in San Antonio, and I worked as a software engineer for 4 years. And about halfway through my time as a software engineer, I got a hold of a camera. It was a Groupon deal, like whatever. Like, oh, this looks fun. I'm gonna buy this Groupon. It had one of those like fancy lenses that came off, and so I bought the camera, and I fell in love with photography from a technical side. I just thought it was so cool, and it was like settings can change the output. And then I started to realize that taking photos like also impacted people's lives, and it was a little nerdy, so it kind of satisfied my need for something fun and nerdy to do. And then so I started taking pictures for other people, and then I started to like look into like, okay, what would it be like to run a business for this? And I dove into that, and I fell in love with being a business owner more than anything. And I loved the whole process of like creating systems so my clients would have like a workflow and creating all of these ways to make my business more efficient. And after 2 years of being a full-time software engineer and a wedding photographer, because my business grew, I eventually left my software engineering job to pursue my wedding photography business full-time. So that business, Dawn Elizabeth Studios, turns 5 this year, next month, which is
so crazy.
And we do about 30 weddings a year and half for the last few years. And in this process, though, as I was getting more and more involved in the creative world, I started realizing that the thing that I loved most about my business was what most other creatives were most afraid of. They were afraid of the tools, the technology. They like, oh, what happens if my camera stops working? It's like panic. What happens if my hard drives fail? And it just kind of took me back full circle to my roots of technology and how these can be tools to grow and to build confidence in yourself and in your business. And moving forward, that's how Tech Savvy Creative was born. I do a lot of business coaching. I did under the studio. I do a lot of business coaching as somebody who's helping other creatives set up their systems, their tools, really try to figure out their technology, how to make their tools work well for them. And that's since moved to Tech Savvy Creative, where we do that full time. And here we are. Now we're talking about tools and helping all these creatives with amazing tech things and the things that are not sexy and that are super terrifying. And
but
we
so
are
necessary, just like you said.
Exactly.
I love that. I don't think I've ever heard a story quite like yours of someone who jumped into photography thinking like, oh, I love like the tech of this and like the system of this. Like that's such a cool story and so unique to you. And I love how it now so clear, like in your brand story, like it so clearly meshes with like Tech Savvy Creative and like why that has now started. It's just, I don't know, that's so cool. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited. Okay, so I know that there are so many tech options out there for people, and that can maybe be part of the reason why people feel overwhelmed. Is it's like, whoa, there's too many things. I just need somebody to like give me the book of this is what you need to get for this particular issue. And I know we're going to talk about like your specific systems that you love, and we're going to link everything below for y'all too. But if somebody is just feeling like overwhelmed in their business, what are some, or like what advice do you have that could help them streamline and feel less overwhelmed?
Yeah. I love this question. And also it's the most common question I get for all of my coaching clients and in my DMs always. It's like, oh my gosh, like you're about to rip my hair out. What do I do? It's super common. So if you're feeling that way, you're not alone. And the first thing I tell every single person that pops into my inbox is remember that this is a process. It's not meant to be something that you just flip a switch and it works. Even the best tools out there, the most simple ones, the prettiest ones, it's going to take some time to really kind of remap your mind and how your business is working to integrate these tools. So deep breath. Remember, this is a process. That's number one thing to do. And even from me, and Tech Savvy launched in January, and I am the Tech Savvy creative, but we're still going through the same process. We are still going through this whole like, well, our business model is different in Tech Savvy Creative than it is in Dawn Elizabeth Studios. Our tools are different. And we're going through that learning process of really figuring out what is working and what doesn't work for us. So nobody is immune to this. Like everybody has to go through this. Even the Tech Savvy Creative has to go through that process part.
That's it's such a good permission slip. I love that you were like not afraid to be honest about that, because it's so true. Like it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's gonna take you some time to figure out which one you like, what if you have a team, what works best with your team, what works best with your clients, like so many different things. So I think that that's so helpful for us to remember that like even the most tech savvy of us still know the process, and it's going to take some time to refine.
Exactly. We're not exempt from that. I am not. Like, and I think I talked to you like a couple weeks in our coaching call. I was like, Kat, I've been spending all of my time playing with this new tool. Like, like I should be doing blog posts, but you know, and that's is part of the process, and everybody's going to experience that. They really are. Yeah. And so adding on to that, the next piece that I always recommend somebody who's feeling really overwhelmed in the process, sit down, give yourself a couple hours, go to a coffee shop and write out your full system, your full workflow for your clients from start to finish. When you actually sit down and map that out, it gives you the ability to not only see where the pain points are in your business, but it also gives you the opportunity to see that you might be making things more complicated than they need to be.
Yeah.
Might have too many facets going on at the same time. You know, how can you change that? But it also is a really great exercise, because if you can't map out your own client workflow, how is your client going to get through it, right? So that's something, it's going to be a task. You can use an online charting system, or you can just write it on paper, whatever you prefer to do. But spend some time and really dive into this, and you will understand why you feel overwhelmed, because maybe your process is really overwhelming. And once you have that written out and laid out, then pursue the tool. Find the tool that fits your model, your business, rather than just choosing a random tool out of a box and being like, okay, I hope this works for what I'm doing.
Right. That's so smart. That's actually one of the things I tell somebody to do when they're thinking about outsourcing is like, okay, let's write out all the things to then figure out what you can take off of your plate. But it makes so much sense to do just for us. Like, okay, it doesn't matter if you're going to outsource or not. Like, you need to be able to walk through this system. And I love what you said about if it seems confusing to you, then it's definitely confusing to your client or overwhelming to your client, and therefore not helpful.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, systems, then overwhelm. We have like a couple of things to remember, like thinking about it as a process, writing out the steps of the process, like client workflow, whatever it is that holds up for us. Let's get into like the nitty-gritty of some specific tools and systems that like you love using and would love to recommend. And again, y'all, I'm going to link everything below for you guys too, because Dawn has some really good ones to share.
I am a tool nerd. I love them. And like I mentioned earlier, I got so caught up. I found this new one and I was like, oh, I just was not productive all week because I was playing in this tool. So diving into some tools that I think every creative should have in their toolbox.
Yeah.
The number one tool that I think every creative needs is some type of client management system. Now there's a lot of them out there. So again, here comes the overwhelm, right? And everybody has very strong feelings about each of them. So again, deep breath.
Yeah.
It's okay. You just have to find a client management system that you love. Whether that's Honeybook, whether that's Dubsado, whether that's Tave, whether that's 17 Hats, there's Pixify, there's Shootflow. There's so many of them out there. So many options. And they all are great in their own ways, and they're also might not be the best fit for you. So you just really have to like take a deep breath, figure out where your pain points are, and then see if that tool works for you. But going back to kind of the foundation of this is you have to have a tool that you love. If you don't love a tool, you won't use it. So what's the point?
Right.
And you don't want to have a tool just for the sake of having a tool, right? So that's where I really stress to my clients, again, if it doesn't make sense to you, you're never going to use it. So it's not going to be helpful to you. And you just have to dive in. And for me, so again, I use 2 different systems for each of my businesses. I could use one for both of them, but I have different needs in my 2 businesses. So for my photography studio, I use Tave, and I have been a loyal Tave user for the last 5 years. And I love them because they are very nitty gritty in their customization. And that's what I needed for that business. I just have a lot of different types of clients, a lot of different contracts, and a lot of different workflows. So that worked really well for me. For Dawn Elizabeth, or not for Dawn Elizabeth Studios, for Tech Savvy Creative though, our structure is a little bit more simple. It's very streamlined, like, hey, you want coaching? Okay, select your package, and now we're moving on, right?
Right.
And for that, we're using Dubsado. And again, that's a new tool for me, so spending a lot of time learning it, things like that. But again, you just have to find the tool that resonates with you as a creative and stick to that. Like, just dive in and get started, because again, analysis paralysis, right? Like, you don't want to get like caught up in the whole paralysis of everything. Figure out your workflow, where your pain points are, and then dive into tools and give them a try.
And I think it's such a good thing that there are so many options, like specifically with like client management systems. Like, yes, it can feel overwhelming. Like we just listed like 7 or 8 different options. And obviously there's got to be more out there than even just what we just listed. But I know for me, like I've worked with one before because I had some friends using it and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go with this one. But it didn't work for me. I didn't love it. So I hated logging in and trying to use it. My brain didn't function the way that it was laid out. So it almost confused me instead of helped me. So I switched systems, and now it's like, okay, yes, this is like clear. Like my brain just like needed what this new system and like the layout of the one that I'm currently using. So I wanted to just bring that up because I feel like, yes, it can be overwhelming to like see all of the options, but it can also be helpful to be able to try out like, okay, well, which one works for the way that I'm processing through, or like you said, like the complexity of the workflows that you need, or just the various tasks that you need within your business.
Right. And I love what you said, like, just because it worked for them, it doesn't mean it works for me. And that's so true. And my goal with Tech Savvy Creative is never to be a billboard for like one tool. It's really important to me that I'm not. I want to make sure that I just teach my clients, my coaching clients, how to choose the best tool for them, not the best tool for their friend or the best tool for your competitor. You know, like, again, you have to really focus on what is best for you, not her. And stick to that. Stick to your guns. Because again, if it doesn't make sense to you, it's not going to be helpful. And the whole point of this is to be helpful and to get your life back, not to check a box. So anyway, I digress. We can go on and on and on. Oh man. So also with the client management system, sorry, my dog is like scratching. I'm like,
that's okay.
I'm like, what is that noise? Now, along with client management system though, and I feel like this kind of falls under the same umbrella, so I'm also going to bring it up here. Having a system that also manages your projects and your tasks is very important, okay? Client management systems really focus on the contracts, the invoices, your client information, some situations like email automations, payment reminders, where your task management system really focuses on like, this is what I need to do today, like your checklist, things like that. I know you're a huge Trello fan. I use Trello, we've used Asana, and we've also dove into ClickUp recently, which we really love. And that also falls under that same umbrella, but I think that's also a very important tool to have. Again, when you're running a business, there are so many moving parts at the same time, and having a system like this just kind of gives you an opportunity to dump it somewhere else, so you're constantly not worried about, am I forgetting something, right? Gives you the ability to create like templates, and those templates say like, okay, these are due on X days, and then when that date comes up, you're like, oh, that's due. Like, you don't have to remember like, oh, I need to send X, Y, and Z to a client. So I do think that's very important to mention as well.
I completely agree. Obviously, I love Trello. And I mean, I'm also the sticky note girl. I have the notepad on my desk. I totally get that. Sometimes it's nice to physically write something down. But I also will just to like ditto what you're saying in terms of the importance of a tool that does this for you. We're on the go with our businesses. We're running our businesses from coffee shops, from our office, from our car. Traveling on all sorts of different things. So you don't want to like be thinking, wait, what did I write on that sticky note that's sitting back home on my desk,
right,
2,000 miles away, or whatever. So for me, that's when Trello started to become so important. But I know ClickUp, Asana, like they all will do similar things. So again, whichever one works for you. But I love being able to like access it on my phone. So even with that whole like when you're lying in bed at night and you're like, oh man, I need to write down this to do. I literally pull it up right there and like write down that to do, and it's all there in one system. And then when I wake up the next morning, it's on my desktop. When I like open up Trello on my desktop, and I've just really appreciated like the organization and how everything syncs together like that.
Totally. And I'm right on board with you. Like, I'm tech savvy creative, but guess who has a paper planner? Like, and this to me, again, the guts of my business is all online, but my 3 priorities that I need to get done today are written down in front of me, right? Again, systems aren't always about finding the best technical solution. Sometimes systems mean going back to the basics, and sometimes that's writing down your top 3 for the day on a sticky note in front of you, you know, but let the system do the hard work, right? Let the system do the work of reminding to email clients, actually doing that. But again, if a piece of paper works for you, you're not a failure because, you're not living off of your calendar on your phone, right? Again, I'm tech savvy creative, and I still write down my top priorities on a piece of paper so they are in front.
And we can all find a way to marry the two. Like it doesn't mean just because we start using more tech in our life doesn't mean like we're only using tech and we feel more like robotic with things and we don't get to get the pretty simplified planner, whatever it is. Like and find a way, again, finding that rhythm, finding that system that works for you to use the tech system, but also the paper system, and marry them together.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that advice.
I know. So another very important tool that I think all creatives should have, aside from your client management system, your task management, is some sort of cloud backup. And this does not just apply to the photographers out there. I know I'm looking at y'all photographers because y'all have a lot of very important files, but this applies to planners, to florists, to anybody that runs a business. Hard drives and backups and all these things on your desk are great, but you want to have something in the cloud. You want to have something offsite in the case of a catastrophe. I know that sounds like really morbid, but not too long ago here in Texas, we were hit by Hurricane Harvey, and San Antonio was spared. We got a lot of rain, but I have a ton of friends that were in Houston that were not so lucky. And you know what? They were great, and they had all these backups on their desk that was also gone with the storm, right? You have to have something backing up to an offsite location. When I worked at Apple and I did technical support, one of the most impactful things that I learned is it's not a matter of if a hard drive will fail, it's a matter of when it will fail. It will fail. And like, I remember the guy next to me that was working behind the Genius Bar, he said, the failure rate of a hard drive is 100%. And I was like, oh, like eventually it's like, okay. So now if you're thinking with that mentality, like, how do you feel about those hard drives on your desk? Like, how do you feel about what happens if your computer stops working tomorrow? Like mine did it like a week ago. You want to, I know. The irony of the tech savvy creative and all the things that broke the week that we launched. But again, nobody is excused from the possibility that your computer could not turn on that morning. Right. Your hard drive could go swimming. Like what happens? I know for me, I actually dropped a hard drive in my office and it was 8 terabytes of data was gone, like done. And it was my 9-month-old was crawling around and I went to pick her up and down went that hard drive. But again, in that situation, we had backups. I had a cloud backup. I was able to grab it and everything was restored within the evening. And it took a very potential crisis situation and turned it into an annoyance. And you know what? I'll take an annoyance any day over losing all of my clients' files for 6 months. Right. So for me personally, I use Backblaze. It's like the cheapest tool that I've ever used. I think I pay $60 a year for it, and it's like amazing. And it just backs up to the cloud anytime I recognize that there's something new on my computer. But I recommend that for every single creative, regardless of the type of creative you are. Just because, again, you don't know when something won't work, and having that peace of mind that, you know what, I can't get into this computer, but I know that proposal I worked on for that client is saved, or those photos for those clients are still, protected in somewhere. It's just so important. So important.
What are your thoughts on doing the majority of your work in like Google Drive or Dropbox? Like I know for me personally, this is a selfish question, but I'm like, hey, we have you on here. Let's ask. For me personally, it was 4-5 years ago when I brought my assistant on. It was actually, I was thinking about, okay, what are the best ways for me to share all of my business information with her easily. And also I was worried about what if something happens and I need somebody else to be able to take over my business. We had actually had our first miscarriage at the time. So I was just thinking ahead, right? Thinking like, what if this happens again? Or what if there is some family emergency or catastrophe or just something going on? And I wanted to have a space that wasn't on my computer, that wasn't tied to that location and was, I don't know, floating around out there for other people to access. Right? Yeah. So I actually moved everything over to Dropbox or Google Drive. And so literally my entire business is on like those things. There are obviously still files and data on my computer, but it's all backed up, like I say backed up to either like a Dropbox or a Drive. What are your thoughts on that? Or do you feel like in that situation you would still want to use something like Backblaze or what? I don't know. Tell me your opinion.
No, that's a fantastic question. And I do exactly what you do. So the majority for Tech Savvy, the majority of my client files are on Google Drive. I just use the folders because it's easy for us to collaborate together. And the rest of my like files, I guess I would say, like any documents, things like that, graphics, branding information, stuff like that is on Dropbox. And again, same reason. I want my assistant to be able to access it. That gives us a universal place to work together for it. Yeah. And it works great for us. However, for me as a photographer, I have 37 terabytes of other photos and stuff that doesn't fit on Dropbox. So that's a different situation where Backblaze is like the bread and butter of my business, because that whole thing is being backed up there. But for a business owner who maybe doesn't have that kind of data, what you're doing is fantastic. It's the fact that it doesn't live on a computer. So, and again, what you're doing is exactly what I do for all of those smaller files. Even for my albums, the albums that I design for my clients, they do live on Dropbox because it's something that my assistant works on, and then she uploads them, and then I send them to the client. And that whole process is in the cloud. Again, if my computer were to not wake up one day, everything is fine. And the nice thing about Dropbox is it's so much easier to get a hold of. Like I can log into any computer and get a hold of it. Same with Backblaze, but it's a little bit more, I guess, like secure. It's not quite as easy to get to as something like Dropbox or Google Drive would be. So yes, you're on the right track. You're doing good.
You made me feel good. I was like, oh gosh, I need to go download Backblaze as soon as we're done with this. But it's all, but no, that makes me feel good. And that way for, you know, like you said, for those people out there listening that don't have like larger files like that, that may find doing things in Dropbox and Google Drive is working well, at least it's not living on our computer. So awesome. Absolutely. Good to know. Good to know.
Definitely. Now the last tool that I think every creative should have in their toolbox. And this one, I'm also very biased because this is my favorite tool that I use. But having a stellar website platform is huge for your business. And I have used them all. I have, like, from the very beginning, I started on one platform and then I moved to another and I moved to another. But what I learned in that process is having a platform for your website that you love and you can navigate and take care of will make a huge difference. I encounter creatives all the time that have to hire somebody just to change something simple on their website. And y'all, there are too many amazing tools out there to need to do that. I have both the studio and Tech Savvy Creative on Show It. And I am a huge fan of Show It. I love how complex and detailed I can make something, but it's still something easy to do. And whenever I'm working with a client who's building out a new website, we always put them on Show It because it's something that I can sit beside them and walk with them through the process. And if they want to update a photo later on, they can do it. Like, it's, they don't require some login to a cPanel or, you know, these scary things that you're like, no, I don't want to do that. Have you ever logged into a tool and you're like, I don't feel like I should be here, and you like log out immediately because you're like, this is scary. It's one of those tools, and there's other ones. There's Squarespace. There's a lot of those tools out there that are really simple and easy to use. You just have to find one that you will use. Your website is the face of your business and your little corner of the internet. If you're never going to update your website, like, how are you going to stay up to date with your clients? How are you going to showcase all of your amazing work? Absolutely. So choosing a platform that you're comfortable with. And again, those platforms might be a little bit more expensive to be able to manipulate it on your own. However, it's going to really just kind of come back in profit because you're able to build out your website and you're able to be present on the internet and really be the representation of your brand. So I'm a firm believer in having a website that you love and you can definitely use. So that's also
I love that. And I can also speak from someone who, again, not the tech savvy one, but I use Show It for all three of my brands. I have been like you, like from the beginning of my business, I've tried multiple different platforms over the years, but for the last 3 years now, we've been on Show It for all of them, and I love it. And while, yes, I do still prefer to like hire the designer for large scale website projects, I'm just not a good like DIY, again, because I'm not as comfortable with the platforms. DIYing it is not necessarily like my favorite thing to do, but I love that for updating text on certain pages, updating imagery, like doing some of those things, even adding a page, like adding a landing page, doing an opt-in, things like that. Like I can navigate and do, and I'm not logging in and thinking like, oh my gosh, like where do I even click? What do I even do? I also feel like there is so much great support within Show It. Like they have a really great like chat system. They have really great FAQs. I know you have some resources on that too. Like it's helpful because it is community focused. So I feel like I can find answers to my questions when I have questions as I'm working on things.
Exactly. And I think you like really hit the nail on the head there. Like designing a website is totally different than like updating a photo. Like I am the worst designer ever. Like you will never see me DIYing a design. I have hired people for both of my websites and I praise them up and down. They are the amazing designers that are so good at what they do. However, I just don't want a creative to be constrained that they can't they got married and they can't change their last name on their website because they have to
Right.
hire somebody for $300 an hour to update the text on their website.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, it's springtime and I want to put pictures of my spring bouquets on there and I can't do
Or
that
like,
because
yeah, updating your portfolio. Like if you feel like you can't do
exactly.
that, then just like you said, your website is the face of your company and you want to put your best face forward all the time.
Yes.
And that means we need to be able to make updates pretty frequently on the website all year long. It's not just a one and done thing.
Yes. But that's not design. That's totally different.
Right.
Yes, please hire designers, y'all. They're worth their weight in gold. They are amazing.
I love that. Okay, Dawn, this was so great. Seriously, like I love your tips on when we're feeling overwhelmed with our systems. I loved getting into the nitty-gritty of some of these specific systems that you're utilizing and why you love them and things we should think about when we're using them. I just really appreciate you like sharing your expertise and your knowledge with us. And I'll be sure, I know I said this before, y'all, but everything will be linked below. All of those systems that we talked about, I'll also put Dawn's information so you guys can connect with her. But I would love for you to just tell everybody, like, where can they go to connect with you if they just want to talk to you further?
Yeah, of course. So probably the best place to reach me is on Instagram, and I am the Tech Savvy Creative on Instagram. No, the Tech Savvy Creative. That's my handle. And just pop in there and say hi, send me a message. Also on Facebook at the Tech Savvy Creative, and we're also techsavvycreative.com, and we have a lot of resources there, plus some of our favorite tools that we use, and we also offer coaching and coaching packages too. So that's how you can get a hold of me.
So great. So great. Seriously, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And everyone, thanks y'all for watching. And I'm excited for our next episode of Coffee Chats with Kat. So I'll see you guys next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.